What's a sign that someone is failing as a parent? U/Lionake responses. When their kids walk on eggshells around them. This includes parents who think their child is perfect and never wrong, making their child fear admitting to them that they need help or made a mistake. U/Deathcrew replied to this with, I couldn't even tell my dad about my favorite hobbies or passions. He just thinks I like baseball because that's all he knows. Speaking of baseball, I would be just leaned into after games if I didn't perform well. So dumb. I tried to show him some bands and music I like and he just put them and me down for it. I think to myself often, why do people have kids, but act like they're always an inconvenience? It would be like getting a dog and being surprised they take a shit and piss inside if you don't effort into them and their behavior. U/4th_Chakra responded. When the kids have to be the parent. Mom, did you pay this month's rent? Or Mom, you have to get up. It's 6:30. You have to go to work. That's too much for a child to handle. They skip the fun years, because the parent simply isn't equipped to deal with responsibility. U/Deleted replied to this with, Can confirm. I was more worried about things than she was. My younger brother was more than happy to skip school because she was passed out from drugs and couldn't be bothered to wake us. I took on the job of making him get up and go to school, telling him he will thank me later lol. U/Humanity's Edge responded. Ended up seeing a therapist for the first time a while back. Learned that my sibling and I grew up in an emotionally distant household. I always knew something was off. We always had things. Plenty of toys under the Christmas tree. Trips to Disneyland. On the surface we had a perfect childhood. Underneath that we were never emotionally validated once. Our dad would yell and throw fits at us for the way we played with our Hot Wheels. Everything to him was about the material value of something. That's it. And our mom would just say, oh, I'm caught in the middle, as an excuse to let her husband emotionally torture her children. The boomer generation has almost zero emotional intelligence. They hardly factor human emotions into their decision-making, it's all just materialism and me. U/Egg233 responded. When the kids are consistently filthy and smell bad. For 5th-year-olds still wearing diapers. Had a parent complain that their kid had to take breathing treatments at home, but they smoked inside, had dog and cat pee and feces everywhere, and trash overfilling the can. You set your kids up for a rough time in school when you can smell the family from a mile away. There's a difference in a messy home vs a dirty home. U/Maximum_Enthusiasm46 responded. That they aren't looking for ways to improve and learn and get better as their own people or as parents. They stagnate, do whatever is easiest no matter how bad it is for themselves or their family unit, and completely disengage from responsibility. And please note, that's just a sign that they're currently failing as a parent. Not that they're bad or falling as people. U/Leatherrecord2142 responded. When the child has no ability to be resilient, trying something new, overcoming small challenges, delaying gratification to do a task chore, accept no or other boundaries without a meltdown, etc. That's when I know that parenting hasn't been effective. Reply. U/Floomby replied to this with, bear in mind that this can be a result of overindulgent parenting, but is equally a result of punitive and highly authoritarian parenting. That includes tiger parenting. Making your kid highly obedient and terrified of ever making one single mistake might be convenient for the parent, because they're too crippled to get into trouble, or maybe some PTA mom will be jealous of your kids but don't even try to pretend that you love them and are trying to help them grow up into functional adults. Kids aren't easy or convenient. A kid who is meek and utterly compliant and people-pleasing is way more damaged than a kid who asserts themselves, does some stupid shit, or is occasionally bratty. Such kids will spend the rest of their lives and thousands on therapy trying to be okay. U/Gumheaded1 responded. The parent sees their primary job as making their kid happy. If you are properly parenting, sometimes they will be disappointed or upset. You say no to something, they don't get the latest toy, you don't do things for them that they can do themselves, they don't get everything they want the moment they want it. To parent well means you're a leader, you guide and teach values, and you try to help them become successful and independent. In the process of getting to those goals, there will be plenty of opportunities for happiness along the way. U/Productivititsa responded. I know it's a tiny thing on the outside, but when parents sign their kids up for lessons and then never practice and miss half the classes, there's a surefire way to frustrate a child, and that's to tell them they're a violinist, pianist, dancer, then turn around and never support their progression in that skill. I know it's a panic move for a lot of folks. You want to give your child the best, so you sign them up for instrument lessons, then expect a 6 years old to practice of their own volition. The time and money would be better spent just hanging out together, rather than putting everyone in a bad spot where parents are stressed about wasting money and their kid not making progress, while not having the emotional capacity to step back and see that they created this problem. U/Megasaradactyl responded. Working in education, the sheer amount of parents who are emotionally dependent on their kids. They place all the responsibility of stability and social interactions for themselves on their children, no matter what that child is doing. Plenty of times I'll tell a kid they need to put their phones away cause we are supposed to be doing classwork, and they'll mention it's their parent. Not like, "Hey, I'm stuck at work, make sure you take the bus today" kind of messages. To some degree, I can let that go. I'm talking full-on FaceTime calls. "Hey girl, what are you up to?" During class. Your kid is in school, that's what they're up to. And the kids are straight up terrified to not answer these calls messages cause they know their parent will be legitimately angry with them or reject them and guilt punish them when they don't keep them entertained. Your 13-year-old should not be responsible for your lack of friends, job, or mental state. U/wonderful ad 5240 responded. Yesterday, I attended a kids' beach soccer tournament. It's just for fun. Rules are different, no scouts are watching, no effect on their teams standing in a league or anything like that. A teen on the opposing team ended up with a red card because he wouldn't stop arguing with the ref, even after a warning, a yellow card, and his coach and teammates yelling at him to stop. Got himself kicked out for the next day too. And what was Mama doing the whole time? Yelling at both her kid and the ref, obscenities included. Didn't need to be a psychologist to see where he learned it. That kid is doomed to be an unhappy, entitled asshole all because his mommy thinks he's special. U/Lanlan 531 responded. When they can't apologize to their children. No one is perfect, even parents. I remember the first time my mom sat me down and apologized for raising her voice over a misunderstanding we had. I was dumbfounded but also developed a newfound respect for her. It helped me realize that it's okay to make mistakes as long as we take responsibility for them and strive to make things right wherever we can. On the contrary, this is something my dad has never done and most likely will never do. It's also one of the reasons we're not as close as years have gone by. I've never felt comfortable going to him about anything. U/Uptowner 26 responded. As someone with a high ACE, adverse childhood experience, score, when children are blamed for the feelings and mistakes of their parents. Neither of their parent ever says I'm sorry and or takes accountability when they do something wrong. I was taught that love is conditional and based on performing, achieving, and always being perfect. When children are so afraid to make any mistakes for fear of getting spanked by their father, me and my sister, they don't do anything and have trouble making decisions due to the fear of being punished and berated for making the wrong decision. When they are not taught life skills, assertiveness, taught how to drive, social skills and shouted at when they don't get all A's. These are red flags something is off at home, and I honestly wish a teacher or social worker from my school would have stepped in and notified CPS, since it took me until high school to realize my parents weren't normal at all. When their mother is enabling an emotionally, verbally, and physically abusive father with narcissistic personality disorder and other undiagnosed mental illnesses. Also, their mother makes fun of their friends and says they're weird when they're in 6th grade. I had a bit of childhood trauma that I'm working on to end the cycle of abuse in my family. U/Lanclifillingly 40 responded. Hey, that's a tough question and definitely not black and white. Parenting is super complex and everyone's situation is different. But one big red flag might be when a parent consistently ignores their kid's emotional needs. Like, if the kid is obviously upset or struggling and the parent just brushes it off or doesn't take time to understand what's going on, that's a sign something's off. Kids need to feel heard and supported. Another sign could be if the parent is overly controlling and doesn't let their kid have any independence. Kids need to learn how to make decisions and sometimes fail on their own, so they can grow and figure stuff out. If a parent is always micromanaging everything, it can really stunt a kid's development. It's also important to look at whether the parent is setting a good example. Kids pick up a lot from just watching their parents. So if a parent is behaving badly, like being disrespectful to others, not taking care of themselves, or breaking promises, then the kid might start thinking that's okay too. Everybody makes mistakes, though, and no one's perfect. But if these things are happening a lot and aren't being addressed, it could be a sign that the parent needs to step back and reevaluate their approach. U/Ilisenfork responded. Yesterday, the guy at Chick-fil-A that dragged his kid out of the indoor playground telling him he has a mouthful of food he's not swallowing, so he needs to go sit and finish eating. Several minutes later, he's pounding on the table and clapping at the kid, shouting, "Eat your food." He kept saying things like, "You're making me really angry." I was so tempted to walk over and kindly explain it's not my place to tell him how to parent, but offer some advice if he's open to it, and what I wanted to share was what I would do. I wouldn't be upset and it wouldn't make me angry. It wouldn't and shouldn't bother me one bit if the kid doesn't eat or swallow their food. If they want to play and I want them to eat, they need to eat or we're leaving. Simple as that. Makes no difference to me. Even if you do end up leaving and they throw a tantrum, pay no attention to their behavior and just get them in the car and leave. The more they throw a tantrum and get zero attention for it and don't get their way, the quicker they'll realize next time that you're serious when you say eat or you don't get to play. No need to yell in the middle of a restaurant. You/Golda Cordova responded. When my mom died a few years ago, there was some drama between a few of my siblings. There are 5 of us total. I am the youngest. My sisters were trying to schedule the funeral on a day that our one brother who lives across the country wouldn't be able to get to in time. So, I objected, dug my heels in and said, if you have our mom's funeral when our brother can't come, then I'm not coming either. They eventually relented and we pushed the funeral to after Christmas and all of us were there. The sisters were super cold and didn't talk to me much after that. During the week of said funeral, I picked up my oldest niece to hang out with me and my BFF. She tells me that her mom, my oldest sister, and her dad both sat her down individually to tell her that I would probably be talking shit about my sisters and that she should remember who she's loyal to. I mean, the fact that it was literally the first thing she told me when I saw her pretty much says everything about where her loyalties are, and they're not with her parents. But wow, what kind of parent says such a thing? This is how you teach your children to treat family. My life has been so much more peaceful without them in my life. Good riddance. You/my name is Rob responded. The sentence, I didn't raise you to be like this. If the groin spawn has always lived with you, you did raise that offspring to be exactly like they are. Children don't learn from words. They learn from observation and example. I'm trying to undo the example of my 20-year-old nephew's parents, who unintentionally raised him to be the type of person who will physically assault a woman for a chicken nugget, then mock that woman's child about the taste of the chicken nugget. I know he's that type of person because he did that. You/Summer Sketchkid replied to this with, not entirely true. I get where you are coming from, but there are outsider influences as well. I, for example, had to tell my kids this a few times when they emulate behaviors from shitter friends in their school. And it's true when I say it. Sometimes you can raise them with good guidelines, and as soon as they see another person, especially their same age, do the thing they thought was off limits, well, it must not be off limits anymore. Until you smack them with the disappoint and then they realize they were raised better than to behave that way. You/Zazzle responded. I feel like there are 2 really big ways parents fail their kids, other than the biggies like abuse and neglect, of course. 1, they view the kids as narcissistic extensions of themselves. In other words, they are too involved in their kids' successes and failures and own them and take them personally. 2, not setting limits and trying too hard to be friends with their kids. It's not simple, but it's important to maintain authority over your kids and set limits till they feel safe and can trust you. It's so easy to just give kids whatever they want whenever they want it, but it's not good for anyone involved. You/Knowledge Global 919 responded. Failing parents never worry about being good enough parents. Good enough parents constantly worry about not doing enough, with the understanding that children aren't robots and they will make bad choices, and as a parent it is their job to assist the children to learn from bad choices and help them make better ones. Though there can be a cycle when it comes to their own childhood experiences of abuse, from what I've seen, parents try to give their children a better life than they ever had, and that's what makes a good parent. The conscious effort and trying and willingness to teach their children that nothing is an excuse for abuse and disrespectful behavior, disabled or not. You/terrible_B_6876 responded. To my neighbors who homeschool their children, it's too late. The window has already closed on them ever being able to read at an adult level. The kids are 11 and 9 and they cannot read. I don't mean they can't read Faulkner, I mean they can't read a menu. Even with no learning or developmental disabilities, they are permanently disabled by your incompetence and by your feel-good ideological attachment to depriving your children of schools. I hate to say it, but if you are homeschooling your children and you don't have specialized training in the education of children, you are probably failing them. Any gaps in your knowledge will become gaps in their knowledge, plus any gaps from the non-perfect fidelity of generational transmission of knowledge. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, you might enjoy the rest of my content. Check it out.